I don't know, man. It was just for those that were old enough to remember what was going on during that time. Uh, it was a very dangerous. The East and West Coast rivalry was a very, very real and at that time dangerous situation.
Yeah, the '90s was like the Wild Wild West, boy.
Yeah, that it was. That it was.
But going to the lighter things, we finally got our guest of the second hour. One of the hardest working women out there in the West Coast. She stayed putting it down. She's about to form her own entity, her own movement, her own business enterprise, and she's here to talk to Off the Cuff Radio about what she has in store for not only 2021, but for the future, as well as hopefully kicking down those doors to maybe where we probably could get reparation checks on her behalf. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, let's bring on my girl, Sarah Coleman, y'all.
Hey.
Hello. How are you gentlemen doing?
Hey,
we
how
good.
You?
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for inviting me on.
Well, we're thankful to have you on, Miss. It's always good to have such a maven of marvelous, financial savvy and all things entertainment, and excelling in all levels. I mean, we always welcome such a, profound presence on the show. So we appreciate you being on.
Thank you. I've been following you guys for a minute. I've been following, what Eric's been doing for a while, and I just, I'm a huge supporter. I think it's awesome. I can't wait for the clothing line to drop.
Oh, we dropping that, as Biggie would say, unexpectedly like bird shit. We dropping that heavy soon. You know what I'm saying? So they better look out for that one.
Definitely.
Most definitely.
Definitely. So Miss Coleman, the time is yours. Go ahead, please tell us about yourself. What you do, how you got into it, and all the excellent endeavors that go into your profession. In the session.
All right. Well, I have been a business owner for about 3 years. I have my own skincare line. It's organic. And it's anti-aging, and it's wonderful. And, I have a lot of, customers that absolutely love this product and these products. And it's all natural, organic, and I have a new product out right now. It's called Eye Candy, and it's made from fresh aloe vera with some other ingredients, and it just makes your skin glow. It's so soft, it's wonderful. And so I've been doing this about 3 years now, and it's a passion of mine. I have 11 years experience in dermatology as a medical assistant and a skincare expert. So I would be the one, helping the surgeon and with the surgeries and everything. And I learned a lot in 11 years. So I decided to come out with my own skincare line.
Definitely. Now, in terms of that science and dermatology, and also understanding, different types of, because dermatology is not, it's understanding the science of the skin from all levels in terms of rashes, eczema, everything of the like.
Exactly.
How did you, when you really decided to go into business for yourself, how were you able to take what you had learned from that in such a practical fashion, and then, as you researched and did all the proper due diligence, coming up with your own formula, to brand, your product with?
Well, basically, working with people for so long that have, eczema, psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, all kinds of disorders, you learn that obviously that person would need to see a doctor and get prescribed medicine, But in between using, the topical steroid, anti-inflammatories, you definitely want to keep your skin hydrated, and you want to give your skin a break from, any harsh medicine. And some people really want all natural. So, I keep it really simple with my skincare line, and it works. And, it just keeps your skin hydrated and moisturized and just glowing. And men and women love it. Teenagers love it. Kids, babies, elderly people. It's for everybody. And it's really, really nice and just delicate. I have a body wash, a moisturizer, and then I have a foot scrub and an exfoliant for the body, a miracle oil. So there's a couple of different products on the line. And it's for your face, neck, and body. And, it usually lasts about 4 to 6 weeks. And it's just beautiful. 90% of your body is basically like skin. It's the largest organ. So think about that. 90% of your body is covered, and it's your largest organ, and you have to keep it hydrated, and you've got to treat your skin with love and respect. They say you are what you eat. Well, same thing with what you put on your body and your skin.
Definitely.
Everybody wants to feel fresh and moisturized and soft. Nobody wants their feet or their, hands dry. And you definitely want to know and trust that when you're moisturizing, it's going to last. So
Definitely. And what do people have to understand in terms of, in reference to in terms of starting a business? Because at the core of this, that is what you do. In terms of enterprise, in terms of getting you, I'm presuming, you have an LLC on it.
I do.
What is, what is the, what basically is what's like the whole protocol and strategy in terms of, formulating, marketing, just everything, insurance, all of that?
Well, you definitely want to make sure that, you educate yourself and do your research and make sure that you're doing it properly. And I took some computer classes. I took business classes. I've taken medical classes. I've graduated with, degrees. And I've taken these classes in business marketing, and then I took business financing. So I took some classes, and I took it really seriously, and I learned a lot. And you've got to have your, everything in line. And when I was marketing in terms, some media outlets reached out to me. I'm really grateful for them. So I did some other interviews with some other outlets, and I've done, magazines and things like that. But when you're promoting, you definitely want to get out there, not just nationally, but international. So I have customers in London. I teamed up with Soul Central magazine. They're number 1 in the UK, and I became an ambassador for them, and I started doing advertising for my skincare line, and I've been in over 10 of their magazines. I've got 3 covers. 2 of the covers have my business name on it. One of the covers, is my actual face. But I was really able to, I did a show, a fundraiser during the 4th of July with a really, really amazing person named Tom Brown. And he has a song out named Jamaica Funk. And he did this whole concert, and he interviewed me and, did a whole live concert virtually. And the whole time he was advertising my skincare line. And that was really cool. I also did an American Cancer Society event with Easy Way Network and was able to promote there as well. But take your time, definitely I say, make sure that you're not rushing just to satisfy certain people. Do things that's what works for me. You know, don't overwhelm yourself. Like, have fun.
Definitely. Now, what do people have to understand in terms of skincare products? Because in recent years, we have seen a proliferation of these products come, but we've also seen a situation where, you know, to be straight up and down, you know, there's a lot of janky individuals out there advertising. What do people really have to understand in terms of, you know, when shopping these products, what they need to look for to make sure that they are shopping from a reputable perspective?
Well, you know, like I said, I mean, with me, with my brand, I can only speak on my brand. I have the 11 years dermatology experience. I've taken classes. I've tested the products, you know, on myself, on other individuals, on children, things like that. And my suggestion, when you buy any product, always test it on a piece of a part of your skin, and make sure that, you know, you agree with it if you have super sensitive skin. But everything I use is completely hypoallergenic, all natural, no chemicals, pathogens. It's completely, you know, chemical free. So basically, you know, you just have to try it, and if you like it, you'll buy again. And 99.9% of all of my customers always buy again, and they always love it.
Definitely, and that's what's up. I mean, so reference to also, and also to addition to that, you know, what are your other endeavors and interests and outside of business in reference, or including your business as well, you know, in reference to expanding your brand? What are your other, what else do you do besides that as well?
I've done music videos. I've done modeling. Right now, I actually work for a small business that does home improvements, and I really, really have been excelling in that, and I love it. I'm a mom, so I'm really focused on my son and my daughter. You know, very family-oriented, and I always put God first. If you don't have faith in something, you know, because I have friends of all different religious backgrounds, and I respect people of all different religious backgrounds, but you've got to, you know, have a belief that you know something good is going to happen, and usually it does. So I say always be positive, because it's hard. It's not easy running a business.
Yeah, and especially, you know, being a parent as well, you know, and obviously diversifying your portfolio is, you know, always essential, because especially this day and time, we've always learned that you can't just stick to one particular hustle. It has to be, you know, within reason and responsibility-wise, you know, having many different endeavors that, you know, have multiple streams of income. In reference to that, when you think about it, what do people have to understand in terms of when you're doing business, as you said? Because a lot of people are looking at it just from a lot of times trying to do too much, as opposed to really just taking the time to really grow it and be patient. And then some people, when they do get a modicum of success, tend to get a little crazy in terms of, you know, wanting to be extravagant. What do people have to understand in reference to, once you start making money, investing it back into your business, and especially having children, how important it is to have generational wealth and that knowledge of acumen to pass down to your children?
And that's why I started my business. My grandmother and my mom told me, you know, you have to start your own business, and that's something you have to, it's your legacy. You have to pass it down to your kids. My grandfather, on my dad's side, Grandpa Harold Coleman, he was on the cover of Ebony magazine for being the first in the Midwest African-American millionaire, self-made. He made $1 million doing construction with a bum leg. He was missing a foot, like half of his foot, because he had diabetes.
Oh, wow.
And he worked every day. And he hired people, and he made $1 million in Missouri. And he was on the cover of a magazine for it. And he was self-made. He had his own business. And he made $1 million, and he was able to live very comfortably. And he did that for himself, and he taught his kids to work hard. They all, they all got degrees. They went to school, and all of his kids are, IRS agents or doctors. So he worked hard. And that was ingrained in me growing up. My mom was a beauty queen. She was the first African-American or person of color ever to be on the Arizona University ASU calendar. She was a calendar girl, and there was no Mexican, Asian, Indian, no person of color, black, that was ever on that calendar. And she broke down those walls and barriers. And then she did modeling. She was on the dating game. She actually dated Wesley Snipes, like Blade himself. So she taught me. She always did her, modeling. She was Miss Arizona, and she won like beauty pageants, all kinds of stuff. And she always worked, and she was a teacher and volunteered. So growing up, watching my parents, and I was very independent as well. At a very young age, like my mom sold Mary Kay as a side hustle. I had like 20 kids and their parents at her door lined up buying products. Like as soon as I found out she was doing that. So I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. My very first job, like I sold more than anybody did in the country. I was in the paper. So, I've always worked since I was old enough to work. And being a person of color out here, a woman on her own, like everything that I've done it on my own dollar. Mm-hmm. And nobody, paid for my college degree. Nobody paid for my first car. I did all of those things on my own. So it taught me independence, and it also taught me the importance of having a business that you can teach your kids how to do as well. My kids help me make skincare products. They help me with the labels. They help me with the design. They help me sell it, So I teach them these things, and they know that they have to work hard for it. It's not like, things aren't just given to you in life. You have to work for them. And I just think that if you, work hard enough and you have faith that, good things do happen.
Definitely. And in looking at all of this, Ms. Coleman, this is black. This is the definition of black excellence. Obviously, in your genetic code, you all had this, this penchant for hard work. It's genetic. It's hereditary. So we've seen where not only you get your strikingly beautiful good looks from, but
thank
also
you.
Yes, well, you have the brains and the hustle because of that. And when we look at a lot of these, when we look at a lot of families, especially African American, when we look at the Johnston, family, who started, Ebony Magazine, when we look at, Percy Miller, known as Master P, starting No Limit Records, of course.
Exactly.
Keenan Ivory Wayans. Yeah, Keenan Ivory Wayans, who brought in his whole family. Shout out to our friend Jerry Long, a.k.a. the legendary Cocaine from Pomona, California. Him starting his buddy boy.
I know who he is, too. Hello, Cocaine. Oh, my gosh. Something so funny happened. I have an experience with Cocaine. I don't think he'll remember, but I was like 15. And me and my best friend were hanging out with him. We were chilling with him in his backyard, and I don't even know if I should tell this story, but I'm already telling it.
Go ahead, just tell it.
He had a wad full of money. I've never seen that much money in my life, and I kind of grabbed it to see how heavy it was, and he said, "Don't you ever touch my money." My friend laughed so hard, and he was serious. And it taught me a lesson. He's like, hey, I'm just telling you because, he's like, I'm cool, but I don't want you to come across the wrong person because I was, I wasn't very street smart when I was young. Mm-hmm. And my parents were very strict, no smoking, no drink, how black parents are, But yeah, it was so funny. I don't know if he'll remember that, but yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah, and of course we can't, and of course we cannot forget, and rest in peace, to Earl Grey Sr. of Black Enterprise magazine. Shout out to his son, Earl Jr. Carrying on tradition. Who really laid down that foundation in terms of fiscal literature for Black people to be financially literate. You know, but I think this is the most important thing because a lot of times, and we've seen situations as well, in terms of where we've seen businesses, with, people, that were, that were very flush with success, but then ultimately, like if we look at what happened, and on Off the Cuff Radio, of course, King and myself, we do not shade anybody on this show ever, but we just use situation as examples of what can't, and depending on the conversation, just examples of when things aren't always going well. I mean, we look at situations like with Cross Colors, back in the day, how they kind of had a tapering off. When we look at shucks, man. I mean, when you look at businesses like
what was it, FUBU?
FUBU, yeah.
Remember FUBU?
Yeah, For Us, By Us, Damon John, and all of them. And of course, when we see bigger corporations like the behemoth, the ginormousness, Sears, and how Sears eventually, is no more.
Yeah.
What is the most important about understanding your finances, and then also, finances in reference to sustaining your product, and more importantly, understanding the market to make sure your product is profitable and sustainable?
Well, there's a lot of aspects to that are very, very serious. But at the end of the day, like with me right now, I'm at the point where I'm just so grateful for, the opportunities that I've been given. But one thing I need to tell everybody, they need to have 3 times the amount of your rent, your utilities, your cell phone bill, your car note, gas, food, 3 times that amount. Your rent and all of your bills, plus your food and a little bit of money for entertainment. You need to have 3 to 4 times that amount saved at all times, number one, in case anything ever happens, to where you can still be okay. That's one thing. Always make sure that you're okay when it comes to that. Get investors. Research, get investors, talk to people that that are business savvy and see if they want to, mentor you. Talk to everybody about your business, people at church, people at work, people you volunteer with, people that you hang out with. Talk about it because, eventually people are going to find out who you are. And, like, I did a music video 2 years ago with some people that are affiliated with Bone Thugs, Mo Thugs, Crooked Eye, some really talented individuals, Lenny Burns and, City Boy Streets, who signed to Wish. I'm sorry, Flesh and Bone. Sloan Bone, who's in Mo Thugs, and I had my product with me. And I was, talking to them. And I was also talking about my product. So now, these people know, Youthful Secret by Sarah. Talk about what you're doing. Get excited about what you're doing and believe in yourself. Believe in what you're doing. And, everything will fall into place, if you just believe in yourself and make a move. I reached out to Eric even, like, hey, talk to people, get to know people, And that's how word of mouth. You tell your friends, they tell their friends. And, I have orders that I actually am going to be shipping out here this weekend. Like, there are, my stuff right now is in a few different boutiques. And, small businesses, and just, don't limit yourself. Definitely be extremely diverse when it comes to the people that you are interacting with and, rubbing elbows with. And if people aren't on the same mind, track as you, okay, I hate to say it, but you got to, cut loose fat. And I did that in my life. I had to really trim the excess weight and fat. Okay, who do I need around me? Who's not really helping, encourage me? Who's, making me feel kind of down sometimes? And just really kind of do you. And the right people will come into your life.
Definitely.
And never stop. Never stop. People have serious situations that happen in life. They do. And one thing I want to advocate for is mental health in the Black community and among
please do. Yes,
people.
Please do.
It's taboo. Schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, depression, ADHD, these are taboo topics, but a lot of people out there are suffering with mental health and domestic violence, and those two areas are something that I'm very passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And I really advocate, true people, men and women that have any kind of mental health, to get therapy, talk to somebody, take a break if you need to, and make sure you're doing your self-care. Everything that you love to do, you have to do it. You have to do
Absolutely.
it. You've got to take time for you.
Real talk.
But like I said, mental health is something I advocate for a lot, and people got to keep that in check for sure.
And we're going to get back to that in a second in terms of how you became such an advocate for it, because what you hit on, Sarah, was so many different levels in reference, because King and myself, we understand what it means to, from an independent hustle, with what him and myself do with this show, and we are so grateful for you reaching out to us, because we do the same with a lot of the many other guests, which we thank infinite for, in terms of how we have to be on the hustle to reach out to people and, not be scared, which we never were to begin with. But we always reach out to anyone, to come on the show and just, because that's how we brand ourselves, we get out there and do it. And I wanted to ask you this, because this is going to go into a hot topic that has been trending over the past day. When you said about getting into business, one thing about it is a lot of people love the idea of entrepreneurship, but don't always understand the responsibility of entrepreneurship, and sometimes try to take on the financial weight of it, because some people literally take the high risk, high reward way too literally. It is a high risk and a high reward, but that does not mean be irresponsible as hell doing it. That being said, you have some people that don't necessarily look for investors because their thing is they want to do it all themselves and get all the profit. However, you do have a situation at times where, and we're just going to use this as a reference because from the premise of economic principles of, backing, it's like when Sosa and Scarface were talking, and Sosa was like he needed a partner in terms of being able to move his product. He needed distribution because he knew he couldn't do it all himself. So he had the financial muscle. Tony had the means to move, if we can use that as an analogy. Now, when we get into that aspect of it, when you do have investors in it, what is a sensible way in terms of making sure profit is distributed appropriately? Because I'm going to go into my next part about when you do start really growing and you do have an ownership stake. Because we don't want to get too way ahead of our audience, in terms of the conversation, but we want to keep our audience, of course, informed and educated in all aspects. So let's start from the aspect of finding investors and how everything should be drawn up from a contract to percentages and actual ownership of it. Please.
Exactly. Well, with that, it's really about what you're comfortable with. And, some people don't want to, share a percentage of their brand, and things like that. They want to really keep it in the family. And, as for me, the only person that I would probably share, my brand is my brother. And we're talking already. He lives in Indiana. Shout out to him, Sarah Coleman. And, I just always, bounce ideas off of him. And just really do your research and make sure that everything is drawn up properly, and things like that. That's one thing. Get a financial advisor. Talk to somebody. There are reasonable places out there that, can give you sound advice. Talk to a lawyer, and do your research as well. And, things like that.
Okay, now we're going to get into
a lot of layers to this. Hey, I was going to say too that just by building off what you were saying, a lot of people like the term boss because it sounds sexy, but they don't understand the groundwork that come with it. Like some days you got to be the manager, some days you got to be the parent, some days you got to be the big brother, the sister, or the guardian, the agent. You got to play like 20 different hats. The chauffeur, the driver. It ain't just renting the office, kicking your feet in the desk, and just telling people what to do all day. It ain't like that.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to wear many different hats when you're a business owner. It's so much. So much. And you're always learning and making, bettering yourself. And, you can't be too hard on yourself either. You are your worst critic, that's for sure. You are your worst critic. You have to be real with yourself. Like, hey, can I make this better? Can I make that better? And just be kind to yourself. Like I said, you've got to put you first because you're, you being centered is more important than anything. So just, be kind to yourself. Don't put a crazy amount of pressure that you can't, that you want to give up. Don't do that. But just, baby steps. Every day is a new day.
Definitely. And to illustrate what you were saying about that in terms of business aspects, in terms of what you're comfortable with, everybody, of course, knows who Magic Johnson is, and he's part owner of the LA Dodgers. Shout out to Magic. Yes. Shout out to Dodger Nation in LA. And Magic owns 2% of the Dodgers. And and for our listeners out there who don't know how much Magic pays for that 2%, he paid $50 million for it. But he does. But the thing is, in terms of that $50 million he paid for it, he gets to own. He has even if it's a small percentage of ownership stake, and he still is getting money off of that. And for a little trivia for those that don't know, he's also the only major sports figure to have an NBA championship, a WNBA championship, and a World Series ring and a Hall of Fame ring. Because I think he co-owns the LA Sparks too. So he has a ring in all those. He has rings in all those distinctions. Now, this is where King and myself, because we were bugging about this, because we're just gonna go ahead and just put it out there. Okay, Michael Rainey Jr., aka Tariq from Power, because we are talking business here. Now, some businesses do decide that they do, after a while, they've made enough money that they just want to go ahead and expand and bring other people in. So he has some words to Timberland, Swiss Beats, and Jay-Z. Of course, Jay-Z sold his ownership and title, and Swiss Beats and Timberland, sold Versus, and they got stock in another endeavor. So he was basically calling them sellouts, and they didn't know what they were doing in business, which to me was just a wholly ignorant-ass statement. But we wanted to get your perspective on it, Sarah, in terms of, when people do decide maybe they want to, whatever they started, that they do want to sell, and what are the advantages or if disadvantages of doing it?
Good question.
Well, honestly, you gotta really look at the people, the people that you're thinking about doing business with, because you want to make sure that you don't mind dealing with these people for a long period of time. You got to know that.
Right.
So for me, it just really depends. I'm not really at that stage right now to where I can speak too much on it, because that's not something that point. Like I said, to anyone that isn't family, but I'm still open to it. So if they're reputable, you like them, you guys are good, then, make sure that there's a lawyer involved for sure, and contracts and things like that set in stone. Because there was this guy, I forgot his name, but he was a Latino psychic, and he made all kinds of money, and he was so popular. He had, the long, expensive robes and, traveled everywhere and made all kinds of money, but he didn't even own his name, because he did some business with somebody who he loved and God loved him, and this person was ripping him off, and the guy just couldn't even use his name. And people, it's so sad, because you look at artists like TLC and Tony Braxton, and a lot of these artists, they did these record deals, and they did not have their own team double and triple and quadruple check everything.
Right.
So like I said, you have to have your own team, even if it's something as simple as LegalZoom. I know they have lawyers there too that you can pay a fee, a yearly fee, monthly fee, and you can have access to these lawyers at all times. So make sure you have your own team, your own accountant, your own people that are with you that you trust before you decide to join forces with outsiders.
Right, and people have to understand, too, for our listeners out there, because everybody thinks you have to, in terms of owning a business, you have to be a 100% owner. That's not true. The controlling interest is 50.1 or 51%, which means as long as you have the majority stake. You don't have to have all of it. You just have to have a majority of the stake. Like Jeff Bezos of Amazon. I've read online somewhere, and I could be, and if anyone is wrong, correct us in the comments when we put this show on YouTube. I believe Jeff Bezos, he owns 11% of Amazon now, because obviously as the company grew, he expanded out, because he had people, obviously, when people saw what he was doing with it, they wanted to buy into it. So he's like, just pay me a whole bunch of money, and you can buy, you can buy ownership in it. We're even going to go deeper. Even with what happened, with the Source magazine years ago, because of course the Source started out as an independent publication. For those that know the situation of what happened with Raina Scott, a.k.a. Benzino, the situation with Dave Mays, how that happened, and how the Source, almost went into bankruptcy, but they were, I believe, it was B.E. Greenwich, which was the finance company that ended up financially saving them from bankruptcy, and then they were picked up by North Star Publishing. Now, by proxy, because of that, that means you have a board of directors, which, is now involved in the company. So the Source, by that instance now, is not independent anymore, which means you have overseeing. This is how Dave Mays and Benzino were removed from it because they were not, involved. They were basically booted out of it because, and for the record, people may get mad when I say it, Benzino was never a co-owner of the Source. We need to get that out there now. He was never a co-owner.
No.
But was he there at the time when everything was going on? Yes, he was. And
and he might have had ideas that he put out there. I mean, things like that. For whatever reason, he's not getting, maybe the crediting that he thinks he deserves. I know that with Benzino, he's a supporter of Soul Central magazine. We've got some pictures of him holding the magazine, and I was on, the edition 55. So nothing but love for Benzino. But, yeah, I mean, and same with the situation with Jay and with Damon Dash. And, there's a lot of, and look at Wayne and, Cash Money. There's a lot of different situations that happen when it comes to owning, co-owning, franchise, all that. But, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it, definitely. But, you got to have your own legal team and make sure that, you're doing it the right way. I mean, with Michael Jackson, the move he made where he owns, like, the Beatles albums, catalog. Even Eminem. 1987,
purchased it for $47 million and also ended up buying a Sony. I believe he also bought half of the Sony catalog as well. Mike's business acumen was cold.
Yeah,
Man.
And that's what you got to do. You've got to make sure your hands are in a few different pots as well. Like, I recently invested in crypto. Not much, but, you start somewhere. And then I have a financial advisor I've been talking to about investing in stocks as well. And then somebody whom I'm very close with has done some investing at the company that they're at with certain stocks as well that they match. So if you work at a company and they offer, like, to match, if you were to, put away money towards, like, their stock, do that too. So there's a lot of different things you can do for yourself to look out for yourself.
Definitely. And we got a little bit of time left.
Hey, I want to shoot this too. I want to say that we also got to be aware of when people, they show the perception of black ownership, but they really not only don't own it, but they'll cash out and sell white as soon as the opportunity comes. Now, I'm like this, and me and T Max, we have we agree to disagree on something with the Jay-Z thing and stuff like Caliber. I look at it like if you're gonna be that, you're gonna buy and sell. Do you? Like, you a hustler? Like, I'm a businessman. I understand that. Only thing I don't like or have a problem with what Jay-Z does along with other people is they'll sell this thing. There's this perception like, I'm black owned. You can't tell me this. You can't tell me that. I'm a boss. But soon they come dangling the carrot, they go and snatch it. So I look at it as, if you're going to be owner, have 100% ownership, keep that ownership. Don't try to persuade and tell us otherwise. You know what I'm saying? That's just me.
Well,
Understood.
For me, for me, it's like, with certain, I don't want to mention the hair product name because it's but I was shopping for hair products and I was going to get this product because I thought it was black owned. And, my mom was like, no, they don't own that name anymore. They sold it to, a non-black company. And for me, it's like, don't, say that you're, that you're black owned if you're not. That's my thing.
Right.
So I didn't get that product. I got a different product that was black owned. So.
Yeah, if you're gonna cash out.
Definitely. Now we do got a little bit of time left, and we once again want to get back to it, spending the remainder. You're also a staunch mental health advocate. King and myself have had many conversations off the air, on the air, about mental illness because a lot of the tomfoolery of a lot of people, black people, because we all are black here, putting out a lot of crazy talk that we know is not rooted in any real facts. And I myself look at it from that type of illogical speaking usually is rooted in something that is not cohesive in the mind. This is something, as you said, Sarah, this is very serious in the black community because we are no different than any other human being outside of the hue of our skin. hence human, just the color. But we are affected with the same things in terms of mental, problems at times, whether schizophrenia, bipolar, autism, all these different things. How did you become such a staunch advocate, and what can we do to raise awareness in the black community? Because a lot of times we see a lot of these people out here who are supposed to be prominent in terms of their quote-unquote political and social stances and opinions. But a lot of times if you look closely at some of these individuals and the things that they say, these individuals ain't wound right at all in the head. Please.
So for something like that, it really affects all communities, it affects everybody, but specifically for the black community, there are certain things that, we go through.
Right.
People want to admit it or not. And we got to really, really pay attention to certain things and really take care of ourselves and make sure that we're doing the right things in terms of knowing it's okay, first of all. There's nothing wrong with you. And people got PTSD out there, too. And I'm just saying, whatever self-care you do, also incorporate that with making sure that your mental health is in check. And don't feel bad for taking time for yourself.
And a lot of times people got to understand, too, that PTSD is not just relegated to being in combat and war. PTSD is also shit you see PTSD is shit you see in the hood growing up. Whether you see your parents fighting, whether you've seen somebody get killed in the street, whether you've been bullied or traumatized in the hood, these are all traumas that are inflicted for some, and they leave an indelible and very painful impression. And these elements that a lot of us as people, we deal with as children, that we internalize, that we hold back, we don't talk about, we don't express, we don't disclose.
Right.
These end up being the hurts that we grow up with, that we inflict to injure others with as adults, because we have not reconciled, recognized, and, faced them head on. How do we have a positive intervention? How do we promote dialogue and facilitate the proper counsel in our community to meet these traumas head on?
Well, you've got to really be open to being there for somebody, whether that just be giving them positive encouragement, letting them know you're proud of them, letting them know they're not alone, not enabling that person, but at the same time not, putting them down. You just really got to be there for each other. And oftentimes the people that are closest to us, sometimes they're, we feel like they're not necessarily really there, So that's why you got to look out for yourself, too. And just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And you're doing the proper things that you need to do. Because I think there will be less jail, for people wouldn't be going to jail as much. There'd be less violence if people took care of their mental health.
Yeah, and especially in the hood, man, because I was in the education system for 12 years. And one thing about it is that with a lot of the students I taught, the tragedy is with a lot of them, especially with some that were born to drug-addicted parents or some that were just born in a chaotic-ass household. The tragedy is with some of them, you see where it's starting with these kids at a young age. And, these kids already have shown signs of trauma and a predilection for violence at a young age. And a lot of times, we have to be real. There is a stigma that is still placed on our children, and when you're dealing with sometimes in a household where, because it's hard enough being black in America. We know this already. Being black is a full-time job, So, so when you're dealing with,
you go through different things.
Absolutely. And when you're dealing with the parents, you don't want to deal with that from a perspective of what it means.
And I think another issue, too, is we also have a pride effect within our community because nobody really wants to be perceived as being looked upon as weak.
Right.
That's one of the main issues, especially with black men in particular, because we are already shown by society, like, if we cry or we show any emotion that we're vulnerable for weaknesses or we look that weak, so everybody want to keep their best shield on.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and, that's the one thing, we're not, a lot of times, how important is it as a parent to encourage your children that they're feeling anything to come and talk to you about whatever they're going through, no matter how big or small?
Exactly, and that's huge. Like, you really have to, encourage communication, and because there's people out there that don't realize that there's resources out there as well that are free, that you can look into, and, there's a lot of different self-care things that you can do, like deep breathing, meditation, positive thinking, positive affirmation. All that really helps. Prayer if you're a spiritual person, writing if you need to, talking about your goals and, follow through, things like that.
Definitely. I mean, it's more, like you said, there has to be an amalgam of spiritual and mental consciousness, as well as having a catharsis that allows you to have that release for whatever, may ail you. I think that's essential because at the end of the day, we're all people. We all have hopes, dreams, wants, needs, desires, fears, love. We are a unique mix of different emotional highs and lows. And more than anything is we want to make sure that we are grounded as individuals in all of that.
And, the like attracts like is so real because you are what, if you are thinking a certain way, that's energy. That is magnetic energy. It's proven scientifically. You have to always keep that in mind. Any negative thought you have, you've got to, cancel that and, replace it with 10 positive thoughts and stay on that vibration. Because when you're on that vibration, that's when the money really hits. I'm going to be real. Literally, I just got a raise today. Another raise today. So, when you're really in a positive vibration and good things are happening, that's energy right there. So that's when, you've got to really hold on to that feeling. And you keep that feeling and you just, already have the feeling that, things that are going to happen and you just have that really positive energy, that's when good things start happening.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Now, I want to ask you this, too. I want to ask you, do you think that with this whole pandemic that happened, it took a major toll on a lot of people, families in particular, and most, according to the statistics, black families, in terms of mental health and basically trying to get help?
And that's what it was designed to do. That's what it was designed to do. And I don't really want to talk about how I feel about that part of it, but there are people out there, though. Yes, there was a lot that did struggle tremendously and couldn't get by, and my heart goes out to those people. But there's also people out there that utilize the opportunities as time to, make things happen, and they went into fight or flight, and that's what happened with me. And, you know, luckily during the pandemic, I'm grateful to say that, you know, my success, like, tripled, quadrupled, you know. Like, I utilized that opportunity and that time to just, you know, grind. But the people that were not able to work at all, like, oh, my gosh, like people at Disneyland and stuff, like, oh, my gosh, my heart breaks for them.
Yeah, it's a nightmare for a lot of people because I've seen a lot of people
But they were getting a lot of unemployment, too, you know, so...
Yeah,
you know,
I
there
mean,
are people that were getting unemployment.
it's different when you're a business owner
because
a lot of owners, they own a lot of, let's say hypothetically, like restaurants and stores, and for that to get shut down like that and possibly never come back, that's very heartbreaking.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's beyond heartbreaking. But there's also grants, and there were things that came out as well for people to take advantage of, and a lot of people did, you know?
Exactly. And with the downtime, too, it's like what we did. It's like you got to take advantage of the downtime because if you could afford to have the downtime, like you could learn trade, you could learn how to revamp your plan and come back stronger because everybody in life takes losses. It's just about how you recover from the losses.
I mean, and there was a lot of places, too, that were, like, you were able to kind of work and, you know, make money and, you know, stuff like that. So I'm not being insensitive at all to, you know, anybody that suffered during this terrible, terrible pandemic, you know, but there were people also that were making more in unemployment than they were going to work, you know?
Yeah, they cashed out.
And a lot of people took advantage of it, too.
They figure, hey, why I'm going to sit there and go to work and sweat and risk getting COVID in the sweat box and I could just kick back, brush my neck, and collect at home. I can understand the mentality.
Man. A lot of, you know, and that's your prerogative, definitely, for sure. You know, but...
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm just listening.
But pandemic or no pandemic, there's bills that got to be paid, you know, and if there's a will, there's a way. That's for sure, you know.
Definitely, you know, and I think one thing about it is, you know, like King said, there's always an element of, you know, hustle that has to be innate because, like you said, you know, Sarah, the bills don't stop, you know, and everything, the world, the world is still moving, even if as everything is slowed down, there is still a certain level of activity that is still going to be perpetual, and you have to be taking part in that. You have to participate, whether things are slow, regular, or even fast-paced. You know, and definitely, you know, like, you know, you always got to look at it. When things slow down like they did, you know, that's the time you do have to look at other endeavors, you know, explore other elements that you might normally not have had the opportunity to do in terms of finding a vocation, a passion, an occupation that really fulfills you and allows you to realize your own interests that you're chasing. I think that's where the heart of entrepreneurship starts, finding that personal element that you are attuned to that is an expression of you that can, in the very best, be profitable because of pursuing that vocation. I think we all have... Go ahead, please.
Being a jack of all trades helps, too. You know, knowing a little bit about different things.
Definitely. You know, and that's why you always have to learn. You know, the most, you know, it's not necessarily the person who is the fastest who wins the race, but it's the person who is the most steady, studious, determined, and focused on the strategies to how to win the race, and will have the, you know, perseverance and the and the motivation to finish that marathon. Because a lot of times it's not about a quick, you know, finish. It's about that long, you know, that long, you know, marathon to completion. And it's not a sprint. It takes time. But if you do give the proper focus and, doing it, it can be completed and you will, be successful. But like they say, hard work doesn't always guarantee success, but you can't have success without hard work. But if you work, you will get something.
It depends on what you're doing too, and
right.
Just don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself. And, if you have multiple areas, things that you're good at, and you try different things, then eventually you'll find something that you really realize, okay, I might be really good at this, But if you always strive to be better, I hate to say it, but if you're not 5 times better than you think you should be, then maybe you're not working hard enough, towards whatever it is you want, Because
Definitely.
for me, when the pandemic hit and everything, I utilized the opportunity to really, 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 just kind of prove myself. And staying there, it's crazy, And it's a good feeling to know and to see, payoff. And if you work hard at things and you really put your mind to it, and there's no stopping you. And I didn't believe it at first. I had a really rough year a couple of years back, and looking at my goal sheets, I've reached every single long and short-term goal that I've wanted, so I'm a prime example. If you really believe in yourself, you can make things happen.
Absolutely.
Message. That's the message right there. Hey, look, we getting pressed on time here, so is there any shout-outs that you want to give out?
Yes. Shout out to everybody that has shown me love. Shout out to my customers, my family, Soul Central Magazine, Mark Rose, shout out. Number 1 in the UK. So anybody wants to do a spread or do a cover, contact me, let me know, and I'll connect you with the right people. Shout out to my boss at work. Hi, Macy. Thank you for all of your love and support. I love you. Shout out to my family. And shout out to you guys. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm just so grateful. And Youthful Secret by Sarah. What about your body?
Appreciate it.
Definitely. And, Sarah, you're welcome back anytime. We've appreciated the time we've had with you. Stay enterprising, stay excellent, stay elegant, and always entrepreneuring. God bless and keep moving forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And shout out to my mom and dad and my son. His birthday is this weekend. Shout out Elijah. I love you, Elijah. I'm on the radio. Shout out to my daughter, Ariana. All right, guys. Thank you for having me. We'll talk soon.
Yes, we
will.
Right. Thank you so much. Yep.
Thank you. Bye.
And we out.